Folks, let me tell you something. In just a few hours, 9 justices are going to walk into that marble building in Washington and finally answer a question this country should have settled a long time ago. Here's the question. Does a foreign national get to plant a flag in American citizenship just by sneaking across the border and having a baby? That's it. That's what this comes down to. Not the legal immigrant who waited in line, filled out the forms, took the oath, and did it the right way. God bless every one of them. No, we're talking about somebody who broke the law to get here. Somebody on a 90-day tourist visa. Like all of the people here to watch the World Cup. We've been told for decades that their child is automatically, instantaneously, no questions asked, an American citizen. And I want you to ask yourself something. Does that make sense to you? Because if it doesn't, well, then we're about to have the best soccer team in the world in about 18 years when all of the people here for the World Cup have babies and they mature into voting age Americans. Okay? Because this never made sense to the people who wrote the law. Go back and read it. I'm going to show you here the 14th Amendment. The 14th Amendment, 1868. Make sure to read the part here. It says, all persons born or naturalized in the United States, thereby granting citizenship to formerly enslaved people. Americans born here who belonged here got the citizenship they were owed. And the men who wrote it put a phrase in the middle of it. Subject to the jurisdiction thereof. They put that there on purpose. The author of that clause stood on the Senate floor and said it did not apply to foreigners, to aliens, to people who belong to another country. It's right there. They knew exactly what they were doing. And then somewhere along the way, the lawyers, the activists, and the open borders crowd got a hold of it. They twisted it and turned a clause meant to protect free slaves into a magnet. A worldwide invitation that says, just get here any way you can. Build a raft out of trash and float here, and we'll hand your kid the most valuable citizenship on earth. And President Trump, day 1 of term 2, he said no more. He signed an order to put that clause back the way it was written. Citizenship for the children of citizens and legal residents. The way nearly every other country on this planet already does it. And today, the Supreme Court decides whether he gets to. Now, I'm going to be straight with you because I always am. This is not a slam dunk. When this thing went to argument, some of the justices pushed back hard, and not just the liberal justices. So don't let anybody tell you this is in the bag. It's not yet. The other side wants you to believe the Constitution somehow demands we keep rewarding people who broke the law. We're going to take that argument apart piece by piece, and you decide for yourself, because here's what's really on the table. If the court does the right thing and follows what the amendment actually says, America finally gets to decide who its citizens are like a real country with borders. And if they don't, the magnet stays on, the incentive stays on, and we keep doing the one thing no sane nation does. We're rewarding people for breaking in. It's like leaving cookies out for the burglars at your house and making them a nice, comfortable bed and giving them the keys to your car and maybe a little money out of your wallet. There is no small version of this ruling, folks. None. So I want you to stick with me. Hit the like and subscribe button. This is so important that we get this information out, and it's so important to the channel. I'm going to show you exactly what this 150-year-old clause really means. The one argument the mainstream press, and I use that term loosely, will never explain to you honestly, and what it means for the fabric of this country the moment that this decision comes down. So you see here the 14th Amendment. I'm going to show you something here. This is Congressman Brandon Gill.
If you ask most Americans, do you believe that an illegal alien who traverses across South America, passes through multiple countries, shows up at our southern border, crosses over, and has a child, if that child should be an American citizen just like anybody else in our country? I think most people would say no. If you ask them, do you believe that a Chinese national who flies into the United States for the sole purpose of having a child, if
that's happening, they have this pregnancy tourist program happening right now. What do you think? Leave a comment down below. I read them all. Should this be allowed? Should we allow people to just come here, have a baby, baby gets all the rights? I want your opinion on this.
That child should be an American citizen, most people would say no. And I hope that the Supreme Court recognizes that. You know, for most of American history, we've always recognized that there are certain people who don't fall under that category of citizens. For instance, the children of an invading army, the children of a Native American tribe that maintains tribal relationships, the children.
Should the Japanese that attacked Pearl Harbor, should they have been able to, have babies and become American citizens? That's an invading army. What about at the southern border down in Texas, the Alamo, and that fight down there? Should they have been able to have babies and just become citizens?
Children of diplomats, for instance, have not been considered American citizens or have not been given American citizenship simply because they're born here. And I think that the same logic applies to the children of illegal aliens who never should have been in our country to begin with.
Illegal aliens that should have never been here to begin with. That is so paramount to this entire decision. The Supreme Court is set to rule on this. The case Trump versus Barbera reviews Trump's January 2025 executive order denying automatic citizenship. Now, yesterday, the president was restored the rightful power that he was supposed to have to fire executives. And now we should get back to being the country that we were built on. Legal pathway to citizenship. Do it right. Let's reward good behavior. Let's get away from sneaking in, having a baby, and the baby gets all the affordable rights under our Constitution. That's not the way that we were built. That's not the way that our country evolved. Try to do it in any other country around the world. That line from the 14th Amendment, thereby granting citizenship to formerly enslaved people. I just want to say this. A country that can't decide who its own citizens are isn't really a country. It's a hotel. It's got no walls, no front desk, no idea who's checking in. And everybody on earth knows the rooms are free if you just climb through a window. That's where we've been. That's the magnet. You reward something, you get more of it. That's not politics. That's just how the world works. We've been rewarding people for breaking in, and then we act shocked when we get more of them coming in. Ending this doesn't hurt one single American citizen. Not one. Your citizenship, your kids' citizenship, rock solid, untouched, never in question. What it does is it shuts off the incentive. It tells the world the line forms over there. It puts value back in the word American. And that is what needs to happen. We need to value this. We've even got the BBC weighing on this. The England soccer team, they're here. So maybe that's why the BBC is so concerned. They want their players to come back and have babies there, or we'll get the best soccer team in the world. There's other couple of court cases going to be decided today, like women's sports, only women playing in women's sports. I've yet to see any women playing in the NBA. Why not? But this is huge. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Now, you've got the liberal magazines, the liberal websites, the liberal news media outlets melting down like the Hill. Trump says the Save America Act is more important than ever following the SCOTUS ruling that happened yesterday, allowing mail-in ballots to happen for multiple days after elections. Now we don't have election day. We've got election week, election month. And I would say this decision is maybe legacy defining for the president, legacy defining for America. Because if we are able to control who comes into our country the way that it was supposed to be, then we get our country back. We get our moral fabric back. And these decisions are coming down today. These are going to be huge, huge decisions. Like I said, we've got the birthright citizenship coming in today. This is the major test for the 14th Amendment. We have the women in sports, or only women's sports. We've got campaign finance. They're going to rule on a GOP challenge to campaign finance reform. And this was under Senator at the time, J.D. Vance, where he filed an argument arguing the provision violates the First Amendment, where at issue is how much money candidates can spend in coordination with their political party. And that's going to weigh in on how much the Soros campaign can throw into our elections, where we stop allowing them to be, the numbers getting fudged. We get some checks and balances there. The SAVE Act, more important after all of these Supreme Court rulings. And I hope that we get some senators recognizing how important this is. The weight of our country hangs in the balance. It's unimaginable what's happening right now. And I want to show you something's happening right now in Texas. I am not going to be able to give you my real opinion on this, but I want you to hear what the governor of Texas is saying that's happening in Texas. And this is his words, not mine, but I'm going to read all of your comments.
Well, in part by that statement, but also in part by information that we've gathered, there appear to be multiple violations that have taken place here. One is information has been provided to investors that appears to be misleading. Another is they appear to be in violation of fair housing laws. Also, we found that, they talk about doing all this building, but they don't have any building permits to actually do any building, and they have challenges even getting those building permits. Believe this or not, we've even received information that they may have been conducting a funeral home without legal authority. Bottom line, Laura, is that there were so many questions arose, especially information that we received, that led us to need to call the elite Texas Rangers to conduct a criminal investigation to find out if criminal laws in Texas have been violated. Well,
now this was Governor Greg Abbott on with Fox News, Laura Ingraham. He says that this mostly peaceful religion are building an entire city in Texas with no permits or authorization. Why is he allowing this? Why is Governor Greg Abbott allowing this to happen in Texas? If the state knows, if he can take time to go on a news show and talk about it, why hasn't he stopped them? And this is only going to get worse the longer that we allow this to happen. We have become so empathetic as a country. We don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. We don't want to push back and do the right thing because we'd be offending someone. And I'm going to show you something here that has been offending a lot of people. This is the SAVE Act. They're putting pressure finally on John Thune. Scott Pressler was in South Dakota, and he is now going to take the battle to the streets of South Dakota. All of these grassroots conservatives. So many of these things are working together in conjunction with birthright citizenship, the SAVE Act. Amazing. We only want Americans voting in our elections. It's so much easier if we only allow Americans to be in our country in the first place. That's where we need to get. The House, Congress has already passed this 4 times, but for some reason, Senate Republicans, John Thune, won't bring it to the floor. I'm going to show you this. You've got to see old John Kennedy down Louisiana, what he says.
As to the SAVE Act, I think we ought to pass it. The SAVE Act, to me, I'm a co-sponsor. It means 2 things. It means that to vote in America, you have to prove you are who you say you are to be able to vote. You have to have an ID at the polls, and you have to be an American citizen. And number 2, it means that we ought to go back to having an election day, not an election month.
Now, we know what they ruled on there. We know what they ruled on. I don't agree with the election week or the election month, but that's what it is. Now, I'm going to tell you this. The moral fabric of our country could be decided today. And I hope you hit the like and subscribe button and stay tuned. As someone that served this country, took an oath to protect and defend it, my 20 years in the Navy could just, as memorable as it was, the real battle is happening now. Right here in a courthouse in Washington, D.C. And the bureaucrats, the people that rely on illegal aliens for their lawn care, their roofing needs, that is what we need to get away from. We need to put our support into America first. And it begins with who is here legally, who needs to leave, and us being able to control who comes into our country. If you like this kind of content, hit the like and subscribe button. Turn on the bell notification so you know when we update you on all of this. This is so important. Thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one.